Chapter 7 On Pilgrimage in Search of Krishna. Through her intense, one-pointed sadhana in the spiritual atmosphere of the Himalayas, her love for Krishna ripened. That love now led her to Vrindavan, the scene where the drama of Krishna's life had been enacted. Although she wanted to stay there longer, she was unable to, because a distant relative who lived in Vrindavan had seen her. He sent a message to Kolkata and made plans to send her back. As soon as she learnt of this, she felt obliged to leave Vrindavan rather than return to her family. Once she left Vrindavan, she wandered through Rajasthan to Saurashtra. Along the way, she visited several holy places, including Pushkar, Prabhas, Sudampuri, and finally Dwarka, on the east coast in Saurashtra. It happens that the image of Sri Krishna at the Ranchhodji temple in Dwarka is particularly beautiful. Gauri Ma entered this temple just as the priest had finished offering food to the deity. She took her seat next to the shrine and began to do japa, when suddenly she saw a beautiful dark-skinned child who had just eaten something standing within the shrine. He had not washed his hands or his mouth, and he stood there laughing. Gauri Ma wondered if perhaps in this part of the country the priest's children were permitted to eat in the shrine. If so, what a strange custom! Soon she saw the priest wash the child's hands, and then the child sat on the throne in the shrine. At this, Gauri Ma realized what she had seen. Filled with emotion, she immediately stopped her japa and rushed towards the shrine. Overwhelmed by this fleeting vision, she lay at the shrine entrance and began sobbing. Meanwhile, as the priest was completing the food offering, he noticed the strange behavior of this unknown sannyasini. "What is the matter? What is the matter?" he repeated. But what and how could she explain anything to this orthodox, tradition-bound man? Thus, separated from her Krishna, this devotee of his was filled with restless yearning. Day and night, she was haunted by just one thought. How could she be with Krishna again? Once again, she turned her steps towards Vrindavan. Vrindavan. Here, Gauri Ma felt the pangs of separation from Krishna very keenly. Sometimes, she would sit at one place from sunrise to sunset, absorbed in deep meditation. On such days, she would not even pause to eat. On other days, she would wander through the different temples of Vrindavan and on the banks of the Jamuna, searching for her dark-complexioned Krishna with the melodious flute. At other times, she would go to a lonely place and sob bitterly O Lord, the source of all mercy? For you, I have given up my home and all the comforts of this life. Please bless me with a vision that would bring peace to my soul. O merciful one, please grant that vision. But her pathetic pleas proved futile. Gauri Ma resolved to leave once and for all. I don't want this Vrindavan. I will go to some place far away. But where shall I go? With no vision of Krishna? It is better to end this burdensome life. One dark night, having decided to end her life, Gauri Ma proceeded towards the sacred pond, Lalita. The next morning, some women from Vrindavan found Gauri Ma's unconscious body in a fountain near the Lalita pond. Those good women carried her to their own home, where, with love and devotion, they nursed her back to consciousness. No one knows exactly what happened at the pond, but Gauri Ma had a deep spiritual experience that night. After regaining consciousness, she no longer saw her life as burdensome. Gauri Ma, feeling very peaceful now, continued to remain at Vrindavan. One day, she met her uncle, Shyam Charan, who took her to his home, where he showed her grief-filled letters from her mother, Giribala. After much effort, Shyam Charan finally persuaded Gauri Ma that it was best to return to her mother, and he took her to Calcutta. Unexpectedly meeting her daughter after such a long time, Giribala clasped her to her heart and wept. In a short while, many relatives and neighbors gathered around them. Their hearts overflowed with astonishment, respect, and joy. She could not stay for long in the company of friends and relatives, however, since she was a sannyasini, since she had renounced family and friends to follow a spiritual life. Promising to return quickly, she left for Jagannath Puri. She then passed a few days in Jagannath Puri, Remuna, Sakshi Gopal, Bhuvaneshwar, and other holy places. The restlessness in her heart had now been replaced by peace. The loneliness of separation had now been replaced by the joy of fulfillment. It was prior to this pilgrimage that Gauri Ma had met Balram Babu's father, Sri Radharaman Bose, who had homes in Calcutta and Vrindavan, and a temple for Sri Krishna in Vrindavan. Gauri Ma next went to visit this temple. She also visited the places associated with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nadia and Navadvip, and spent many days there in divine joy. She believed, nay, she knew that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was an incarnation of Lord Krishna. Then she went to Kashi Benares. At Kashi, she had the opportunity to meet a very famous holy man, Trailangya Swami. Afterwards, she returned to Vrindavan. It was during this visit to Vrindavan that Gauri Ma first met the great devotee of Sri Ramakrishna, Balram Babu, the son of Radha Raman Bose, and it was there that he first told her about Sri Ramakrishna, urging her to visit him, but to no avail. Without telling anyone, Gauri Ma suddenly left Vrindavan and proceeded to Rishikesh. Here, an old sadhu, in whom she had great faith, said to her one day, "Your mother is very ill in Calcutta and anxious to meet you. You should return to Calcutta." It was her mother who had opened the door of spiritual life for Gauri Ma. Filled with a deep sense of obligation to Giribala, Gauri Ma, therefore, returned to Calcutta. Giribala's heart flooded with joy on seeing her daughter. As a result, her health soon began to improve. When Gauri Ma was certain her mother was back in good health, she left for Jagannath Puri once again. During her travels, Gauri Ma faced many trials, sometimes because of her beauty. At Jagannath Puri, a woman became greatly devoted to her, but her husband was physically attracted to Gauri Ma and repeatedly asked his wife to invite her to stay in their home. Not suspecting what was on her husband's mind, the wife, with great devotion, requested Gauri Ma to come and stay with them for a few days. Seeing the woman's intense desire, Gauri Ma went with her to her home. By chance that evening, Gauri Ma had an upset stomach. It was her practice to bolt the door from inside before sleeping, and she always kept a knife under her pillow. Since she had awakened several times that night because of her indigestion, and since it was almost morning, she felt she wouldn't sleep anymore. So as she lay down, she didn't re-bolt the door. Having been awake much of the night, however, she soon dozed off. Seeing this opportunity, with his mind full of wicked thoughts, the husband softly crept into her room. In the darkness, he accidentally stepped on her hair. Immediately, she awakened. At this, he ran out of the room. In a flash, Gauri Ma understood everything. Wielding her knife, She began running after him, intending to punish severely this animalistic man. Frightened, he bolted out of the house. Assuming the terrible aspect of Chandi, Gauri Ma pursued him, knife in hand. It was now daylight. Seeing them sprinting down the road, a crowd collected. Immediately understanding what had happened, they began to beat up the man. Even so, Gauri Ma came running up with the knife in her hand. Finally, one woman caught hold of her and calmed her. The people gathered there were astonished and impressed by her bravery and her love for purity. It was also at Jagannath Puri that Gauri Ma met Hari Krishna Mukhopadhyay, who, like Balram Bose, wanted her to meet Sri Ramakrishna. When he came to know her well, he said to her, "Mother, I have seen a person at Dakshineshwar, a very unusual person, overflowing with love and knowledge, always in samadhi. He is beyond description." Again, however, Gauri Ma did not see how her steps were being directed.